What's up, everyone? Welcome to RotoGrinders NBA Crunch Time. I'm your host for this evening, TJ Zwarich, joined with an all-star crew this Saturday. First up, I got my guy, Will Priester. Haven't seen him in a while, but it's nice to be back. How you doing, Will?
I'm good, brother. Glad to come on. Glad to talk a little NBA on a Saturday evening. Smaller slate than I would have hoped. Like on the weekend, at least give me 5, right? At least give me 5. We're coming in on a little baby slate here, but either way, when the NBA comes back, we got to be in the street. So hopefully we'll break this thing down for the people.
Joining us as well, one of the best DFS players around, Neil Orfield. Welcome. How you doing this evening? And what do you think of the 3-game slate we got?
Yeah, I feel the same way as Will. Like I don't mind short slates in general, but probably 4 or 5 would feel a lot better to me than 3. 3 is just like on that line where you're not going to get anybody who is like a reasonable play at sub 5% ownership. So even when you play the good kind of contrarian plays, you're sort of hand holding with a lot of the field. Just more fun when you get 4 or 5, some different options out there, but we will make the most of it. I still think it could be, a fun slate. And if you make money, then you don't really care how fun the slate is. So feels good. Fun to be doing some NBA DFS on a Saturday night.
Couldn't agree more. And when we dive into this, we're going to be, since we only have 3 games, we have a little more time. We're still going to go position by position on FanDuel and DraftKings. We're still going to take questions. First up from the RotoGrinders live stream chat in the Discord, then followed by the YouTube chat. So make sure you get your questions in. And then after that, I just reserved 20 lineups. I have no teams in them. We're going to have some time, so we'll go through SimLabs, throw in 20 lineups that we will build together here as well. So we got a nice show ahead for you. And if you're wanting to utilize SimLabs, make sure you check out RotoGrinders Combo, because DFS is all Combo Premium, that is, because DFS is all about value. This is the busiest time in the sports calendar, which means it's the perfect night to sign up for RotoGrinders Combo. For a limited time, get your first month of combo access for $79.99. That's only $5 more than NBA Premium. Don't pass up this great value. And if you just want access to the most advanced NBA data in the markets, you can get shot quality projections for Lineup HQ. RotoGrinders.com/shot quality. The link is in our description right down there. You can get 1 month access for $40 or yearly for $200. Want to give it a test run? Try it with 3-day pass for $9.99. Chief, talk to me about this slate. It's only 3 games. What stands out to you? At least it's the same slate on FanDuel and DraftKings.
Yeah, that's the main thing, because I've been writing an article every day, and every day I've just decided that I have this section called the note section. It's like big, bold, NOTE : note, and I just say, okay, are the slates the same? Or are they not the same? And then I just put that in there so people understand, like, hey, DraftKings is cutting off at 9 o'clock. FanDuel's going all the way to the next morning. But anyway, a 3-game slate. Thankfully, they did. DraftKings didn't just turn this into all showdowns. I will say I do like the DraftKings. I am pro. Let's cut it off at 8 or 9 o'clock. I am pro that. I've got a wife and a family, and so it's nice to not have to worry about a 10:30 game wrecking my standings. But I also see the other side, and so variety is good. I think the biggest difference for me today in terms of overarching slate is, and this is just me personally, I think on FanDuel, you're playing James Harden and Trae Young and everything. And on DraftKings, maybe not so much. To me, that is the slate on FanDuel, where Harden and Trae are both like 9,500, 9,600. It's like, just play them both. On DraftKings, where Trae's, 10-4-ish, and Harden's like 9,500. I think you could do a little bit better. I know it's a small slate, and yeah, I know Atlanta-Chicago is the game. I think we all probably feel that way. But I think just in terms of the slate for me, Harden and Trae on FanDuel is like the lock button. I think it's the most unobvious call ever, but I think it's the right call.
Harden Trae lock button is literally something I was thinking of doing in SimLabs when we built the 20 lineups. So I like that as a starting point. I couldn't agree more. I wrote them up as my 2 favorite players in the expert survey as well. Neil, what of the 3 games, which stands out to you as the most stackable?
Yeah, I mean, it has to be Chicago, Atlanta, just like that. That's two of the three fastest paced teams in the league playing against each other is always going to be a recipe for a lot of fantasy points. So that one like clearly stands out above the rest. Brooklyn and Cleveland, like I have some interest in mostly the Cleveland side of it because Brooklyn has been really bad rebounding and Cleveland obviously has a couple really nice bigs on the slate, but it's still sort of hard to stack it. I guess you could stack that one and just hope that it doesn't blow out. Like there's obviously a wide spread, but like you can play it like, well, what if it doesn't? Maybe play some of those Brooklyn guys as well. But yeah, the Chicago Atlanta definitely stands out as the like clearly best stackable slate, but the field's doing that too. So it's a slate where you could, play for, hey, what if one of these other games goes into overtime? What if Toronto LAC goes into overtime and then suddenly you're getting a leg up on the field? That's the kind of thing that I think about a little bit more on these 3-game slates is like if a game does go into overtime, you can get a really big leg up. Like I don't really try to game stack on a 9-game slate, but on a 3-game slate, you can think about it a little bit more, trying to game stack, or do the opposite and play like the best starters, like the starters you like the best from one side of a game, and then maybe like look at who's going to come in the case of a blowout, who gets that kind of closing run for various teams. So I don't know, just kind of thinking through the various ways I might want to play this, but I'm answering more than just the question you ask. So yes, Atlanta and Chicago, clearly the best, most stackable game.
You answered more than the
add
question
something
I
to that real
asked,
quick?
but absolutely, you added some really great context to the question, so I appreciate that, especially on a short slate like this. I really like getting to dive into that game theory aspect. Chief, add away.
So I think the one thing I was going to add was we were talking about the Brooklyn game. And so the one thing that stood out to me, and now we're kind of going back to DraftKings, but I do think Jared Allen at 7K. And I know we're going to go position by position, but the way DraftKings and FanDuel are doing it this year, I almost think two different slates in my head. I know it sounds crazy, but I'm almost thinking two different ways about how I want to approach the slate. I'm probably not as interested in Jared Allen on FanDuel, but on DraftKings where he's 7K, like to me, that's like one of those other linchpin plays that could pay off at that price range. I mean, if he goes for 45 tonight, unless one of these other centers absolutely just obliterates the slate, you're probably going to need him. Zach LaVine is back, so I like Vooch, don't love Vooch. So Allen at 7K on DraftKings is another one for me that's like kind of a slate key, if you will.
All right, I like it. Well, let's start going position by position. We will start on FanDuel. Will, I will go to you first. I'll also remind the people, smash that like button if you're watching us on YouTube. Help us battle that YouTube algorithm. It truly does wonders, getting as many likes as we can, get as many subscriptions as we can, as many people hitting that notification bell. We want to build this community. We want to keep rolling, keep the shows free. So let's start at the point guard position on FanDuel. Will, you talked about potential lock buttons on two of these point guards today, James Harden and Trae Young. Is there anybody else you're interested in? Because we do have some value here as well.
For me, the answer is no, and I'll tell you why. Thank God FanDuel went to multi-position eligibility. What was it, 2 years ago, 3 years ago? We're somewhere recently after DraftKings. And so, look, TJ, we play aggressively. I play aggressively. I'm fine eating the chalk here and letting the chips fall where they may, because anybody else that I might have played at point guard, I can get them at shooting guard. So I think Harden and Young are just the best plays, even compared to a guy like Kevin Porter Jr. Like, I don't mind giving up $4,100 Kevin Porter Jr. I can go get a cheap play somewhere else, but I think Trae and Harden have the highest floors and the highest ceilings in this slot on FanDuel at their prices, and I'm not willing to back off of that on a 3-gamer.
Bang, you play James Harden, you play Trae Young, tournaments, cash, you move on. Neil, what do you think about the point guard position on FanDuel?
Yeah, I mean, it also depends on like how many lineups you're playing. Like if you're playing 5 lineups and you just want to lock in those two guys, I think regardless, it's totally fine to do that. If I'm playing 150, like I don't usually lock button players. Like it's pretty rare for me to lock button anybody. I think Will makes a good point about like basically everybody else you want to play is also eligible as shooting guard, so it doesn't really hurt you that much if you do lock button them. I'm going to be playing some other plays at point guard, but just looking through the ones that are only eligible at point guard, like it really is like it's Trae, it's James Harden, and then maybe I'll play a little bit of Darius Garland, just because I mean he's getting 20% ownership, not like super contrarian, but I think he's playable. Dennis Schroeder, I think, is border. I mean, he's tough to really want to play him against Cleveland, but I think on a 3-game slate, like I'm a little bit more willing. And then if I want to get more contrarian, I think I mean quickly. I believe quickly is playing. Maybe we don't have that confirmed yet, but quickly is sort of interesting to me, at least as like a he's very much a pay up to be contrarian. Like doesn't project well at all, point per dollar. And it's a bad matchup with the Clippers, or at least like on in the context of this slate, not a great matchup for quickly. But like if you need to maybe make a pivot later in the night, I think it's kind of a fun late swap. Somebody like quickly could become sort of interesting at pretty minimal ownership. But I agree, like Trae Young, James Harden, like two of the best plays on the slate. So I'm going to have a lot of both of them. Don't want to make it sound like I'm going on my way to get too many other point guards, but I'm going to be getting to some others as well.
I like the quickly idea in tournaments because he could play if he's back. And we don't get specific word. He could play 25 minutes, or maybe they say no, he's back because he's 100%, and he goes 32, 33. Where all of a sudden $7,400 is way too cheap for him. So I like that idea. Geez, J3, stop being weird in chat. You're distracting me as I try and pivot to the next position here. But Neil, take me over to shooting guard. I had a thought, and I don't remember it. Oh, the thought was that speaking of, we were talking before the show that I've been doing a lot of laddering for bets this year, NBA bets. And so the two I chose because I think it'll be fun, especially if we're going to be lock buttoning Trae and Harden today in the 20 lineups we build on DraftKings. I did Trae Young over 30 points, over 35 points, over 40 points. And I did James Harden over 35 points and assists, over 40 points and assists, and over 45 points and assists. So hopefully the Raptors can keep that one tight enough for it to hit, because I really think that'll be the number one factor in that one. But it should make watching these games a little bit more fun, especially as a Toronto fan who doesn't get to enjoy his Raptors this year. But Neil, take me over to the shooting guard position.
Yeah, so at shooting guard, I mean, it is a lot of the same players. So as we mentioned, Trae Young and James Harden are both only point guard eligible. As far as shooting guards that I like, I mean, there's Dyson Daniels looks really good. Just he's a very strong point per dollar play in a really fast paced matchup. Obviously, going to be pretty chalky. So I think he's a fine play. I'll get to a good amount of Dyson Daniels. I don't know if I love 60%. I might try to get away from it a little bit, but hard to argue. Again, that is just a really fast paced game. He's only 5,600. He projects well point per dollar. Norman Powell looks pretty good, 6,300. Should play significant minutes here. Nice matchup with Toronto. All of the Bulls, so Zach LaVine, Kobe White, Josh Giddey, all eligible at shooting guard. And again, in that game environment that we're expecting it to be really fast, I think all look like pretty reasonable point per dollar plays. I don't know how many Bulls I want to get to in a lineup. I guess because it's a 3-game slate, I think you can play several Bulls in the same lineup. And none of them are like super expensive. They're all right around 7,000. So LaVine, White, Giddey all look pretty good. Get to a little bit of Donovan Mitchell. I'm trying to see if there's anybody else that I really want to like force into my lineups. Again, quickly is eligible. So again, he's eligible at shooting guard. So maybe that's a better place to play him. Nobody else standing out as players I'm going to get to a ton of.
Who do you like better for the ugly, cheap Clippers value today? Would you rather play Chris Dunn or Kevin Porter?
Probably.
Or Terrence Mann?
Let's see. Chris Dunn is 4,100 on FanDuel. Terrence Mann is shooting guard and small forward eligible at 3,900. Where's KPJ?
41 only at point guard.
Yes, that makes it tougher for KPJ. Probably Chris Dunn would be my lean.
He always has a high upside on FanDuel and on FanDuel specifically too, because he's a guy that just randomly can go for 3 steals in a game, even if he hasn't had a great start to this year. Chief, who do you like at shooting guard?
So let me just say, in terms of these Bulls, like LaVine being ruled in was like a huge deal. And then we've already got news that Coach Donovan said he's going to play around 32 minutes. And I mean, he's 6,700. 32 minutes is borderline normal minutes. Like he's probably only going to play about 35 anyway. So with that being said, we're looking at Levine at 44%. And I'm not saying we don't need to be playing Levine. I don't want anybody to think that. But I think out of this group, Kobe White might actually have the most upside here. So I'm willing to sacrifice some Levine to get to a little bit more Kobe White in hopes that I get it right. So this is just me kind of rolling the dice here saying, I'm not going to fade Levine. I'll go under the field, and then like maybe I get Levine at 30-ish%, which is giving up a little bit. And maybe I go Kobe White at like 45, 50 and just see if I nail it. Because if I do, that 4 to 5% in a large field in a 3-gamer is a big deal in terms of passing those extra lineups. So I did want to mention that. One guy that I'm interested in outside of the obvious plays, believe it or not, is Cam Thomas. So Cleveland is a smothering defense, and Cam Thomas isn't going to have a lot of peripheral. So just bear with me here. Cam Thomas is in the same price range as Giddey, White, Levine, and obviously the Bulls are better plays. But if for some reason, because Cleveland is on a back-to-back and Brooklyn's on a back-to-back, if for some reason Brooklyn stays in this game, Cam Thomas may have, in fact, gone off for 35 real points. Like, that's the only way I see Brooklyn legitimately hanging around. Like, Thomas has really got to push on his points today. And so just from a tournament perspective, we're looking for nuggets, if you will. I mean, we've got him projected for much lower ownership than the Bulls. I don't think in my mind, no, he gets nowhere close to the Bulls production. But in my heart, I just can't look at that low ownership and leave him, even though it's against Cleveland, because he could absolutely go nuclear if he's efficient tonight. So just wanted to mention that.
All right, take me over to small forward.
So small forward for me is interesting because we've had RJ Barrett playing like a superstar, and now we're getting Quickly back, and you've got these other pieces. But I'm willing to roll the dice one more time with Quickly coming back because his ownership, like compared to the Powells, compared to Cam Johnson, compared to Shea, which you should obviously be playing. I was actually shocked we were getting him around 30%. I thought he'd be pushing 50 at that price. But so I still think we need to be getting RJ. But Jalen Johnson at 8,800, he's getting a ton of ownership, and RJ's getting none. Going to be playing Jalen Johnson. It is what it is. But I do think RJ is a really good pivot considering he's getting he's not even getting half the ownership tonight of Jalen Johnson. So I wanted to mention that because I thought that was pretty important. I think, Shea, I think in terms of your secondary play, I think he's definitely your guy.
Assuming Quickly plays, is Barrett a FanDuel only play for you, or are you playing him on DraftKings too, where he's a little more expensive?
Mainly FanDuel. So he's another one of those kind of flip-flops where Jared Allen, I think, is 7,600 on FanDuel. He's 7K on DraftKings, and I'm definitely getting way more on DraftKings than FanDuel.
All right. Neil, how about you? Who do you like at small forward?
On FanDuel, let's see. Getting to a good amount of Norman Powell also eligible at small forward. Bit of Derek Jones Jr., which is, he's kind of chalky, and he's not like the best type of chalk where he's like, he projects pretty well point per dollar. But he's, again, getting over 50% projected ownership. So it's a little bit tough. I might try to come down off of that just a little bit. Jalen Johnson just looks awesome. He's going to be chalky. He's 8,800, great matchup. Should be able to pay off his price tag in this matchup. Getting to a lot. Zach LaVine getting to a lot. I am getting to some of Shea. We've seen the upside just this week. 5,400 looks pretty good. Getting a fair amount of ownership. I think there's kind of a wide range of outcomes there for Shea. Cam Johnson looks okay at 5,900. Getting to a bit there. Actually, getting to some RJ Barrett. He is to me like one of the toughest point per dollar options to get to, but often on like short slates like this, getting the kind of star-ish level players at low ownership is a way to get different. But he's getting 32% ownership on FanDuel, so I don't love it. I'm going to be underweight to the field there on Barrett, but I'm getting to a little bit, and then You want to respond there? Was that
Nah, I need to update my ownership. I had him at 20. Let me refresh.
Oh no, I might be looking somewhere else. I'm looking somewhere there where it's a little bit easier for me to see things. So maybe I have the ownership a little bit wrong here.
19.55 most recent update for RJ Barrett that we just got.
Okay, nice. Okay, so it's not as bad as I thought. Zaire Williams, I think looks fine at 3,800. Looks like a reasonable play. Wait, let's see. I was updating things on DraftKings because I'm playing DraftKings tonight. I don't think I'm actually playing on FanDuel. I might try to get a few lineups in. Dean Wade looks okay at 4,200, just based on like if you want to play the blowout game, and I couldn't find any examples of Brooklyn being in what appears to be a blowout so far this year. Maybe there were some and it became closer at the end, but just looking at final box scores, couldn't find any. But we had the Cavs were just in a blowout. And what I like about Dean Wade and Ty Jerome is they have some role like in throughout the regular course of the game, but both of them also finished in that blowout game. So could get a few extra minutes in the case of a blowout. So that's kind of a little bump in favor of Dean Wade, Ty Jerome on a 3-game slate. If you are playing several lineups, I think that's one thing to think about. Like, okay, maybe they could benefit from a blowout and they get some usage throughout a regular game anyway. So I think both are a little bit interesting. Did I mention Patrick Williams? We're at small forward. Is he small forward eligible on? Doesn't look like he is. He's on. Is he just power forward on FanDuel? Yeah, he's just power forward. So that's why I didn't get there. Okay, I mentioned everybody that I think I'm playing.
Well, feel free to lead off with Patrick Williams at power forward.
Yeah, Patrick Williams is somebody that I wrote up. He looks like a fine point per dollar play. Doesn't really stand out from that perspective at 4,500 on FanDuel, but I think power forward is pretty weak in general, and he up to 1.4 steals per game this year, and I think that like his profile should be good in terms of stocks. So it's kind of promising to see. 1.4 steals per 36 minutes, not per game. But he has he benefited from Levine being out, and now Levine is back. So probably not going to get to 30 plus minutes. But I think even in like 25, 27 minutes for Patrick Williams, he could just have some stocks. And of course, that's valuable on FanDuel in a game that is high paced. I think you're more likely to see more stocks in this game with both teams being really fast-paced teams. So Patrick Williams kind of stands out as a, kind of interesting play. He's getting some ownership, but like not that much for a 3-game slate. So I think he's a good play.
Chief, who you like in power forward?
Look, man, I don't really have much to add because, I mean, you can get Jalen Johnson there. You can get RJ there. Like, I'm just kind of going to be floating between all of the same guys. And I do agree on Williams. Like, at 4,500, in this type of a game, like, this is where he could excel. Almost similar to Derek Jones against Toronto, but it's like, clearly the Chicago game is better. Like, and we know this. So, any type of exposure you can get to a guy playing 30 minutes, I mean, he should play 30 minutes in this game as long as it's close. He could fall into 25, 26 fantasy points, and he's probably got upside for 35. Now, and if he's got 35, he's probably got 2 or 3 steals, 2 blocks, 8 to 10 points, 3 assists, 4 rebounds. Like, that's how he gets to 30. He's not scoring 30 real points. So perfectly fine with the Williams call. And last but not least, like, hear me out here. Okay? Just hear me out here. If I'm going to bring up those 4K high-minute guys, Dorian Finney-Smith is doing the same thing. I'm just saying, like, I don't like it. But he's just another 4K guy at lower ownership than those guys that nobody wants to play, but on this slate you may have to play to just get some exposure.
All right, well, take me over to the center position.
So the center position, man, for me, I mean, it's pretty easy. Ivica Zubac is my favorite center. He's getting less ownership than Jared Allen, at least according to my numbers. He's getting a little bit more than Jakob Poeltl. But Zubac is my guy. I liken Zubac to James Harden and Clint Capella in the old school Houston days where they just kind of did everything. And I feel like that's what we're getting from Zubac. And so, at 7,400, I really like him a ton. I know that with the Atlanta Hawks. They are splitting minutes with Okongwu and Capella. It is very yucky. I don't know which one of these guys is going to do something slate to slate, but I will say I do think tonight is one of those nights where you just play a little bit of both of them. If one of them lucks into 30 fantasy points, like you might have a tournament winner. So you're getting Okongwu at like 6% and Capella at 2% on FanDuel. I think that's way too low for a high upside game like this. Like both of these teams are top 10 in pace, and in fact, I think they're both top 6 in pace. I could be wrong on that because there was some shifting, like Memphis dropped down some this week and somebody else went up. But I think they're both top 6. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's yucky. I get it. But in a game like this, either one of these guys goes for like 10 rebounds, 8 points, and 3 or 4 blocks or something and runs into that, they're probably getting close to a tournament win if Zubac doesn't go for like 50. Because, by getting them, we've probably played RJ Barrett and played some of these 8K guys that have higher floors to help get us there.
All right, Neil, how about you? Who do you like at the center position?
Yeah, I think a lot of the players that Will just mentioned, Jared Allen, and I guess I didn't mention at power forward, or I don't think I did. I really like Jared Allen. This is a great spot for rebounding. Brooklyn is, let me check the rebounding rate. Brooklyn is bottom. I think they're 6th worst in the NBA. Yeah, 6th worst in terms of rebounding rate in the league right now. Jarrett Allen averages the 6th most rebounds in the NBA right now. So just a great spot. I think he could put up 20 rebounds here. Also helps Evan Mobley also. And I was like debating, kind of going back and forth, which of them I actually like better, because Evan Mobley might just be the one who, lucks into a few extra rebounds in this spot. So I think both look pretty strong here. Yeah, Pirtle looks good. I like the call on Capella and Okongwu, particularly on a 3-game slate where 30 points. If this were a 9-game slate, then you wouldn't even have to think about it, because great, if 30 points is the upside, I don't care. But on a 3-game slate, I think it becomes a lot more appealing. So I like those call outs. I don't know, Claxton, it's like he's cheap enough you can almost consider it, but also really tough matchup. So I think I'd rather just get to the Cleveland guys. Yeah, I think that's about it. Zubac looks really strong.
All right. Well, let's pivot over to DraftKings here. I feel like a lot of it is very similar, so we can focus on the price differentials. We don't have to go the same in-depth position by position. We already have a question from Derek Ringering, favorite salary savers on DraftKings. So maybe we can highlight who our favorite salary savers are when we're going through position by position here as well. And then we'll quickly build some SimLabs lineups, and we will get some questions and get out of here. We're 15 minutes to lock. So let's try and get through this one nice and quick. Chief, starting at you. Who do you like at point guard on DraftKings? You feel in the same type of James Harden, Trae Young lock over there. Young is going to be a lot more contrarian on DraftKings, where he's more expensive.
Right. Still love Young, but clearly I'm going to lean harder for the savings. And then the Bulls guys. Now, I will say on DraftKings, I'm much more interested in Darius Garland. Not that I wasn't interested on FanDuel, but where Trae and Harden are similar prices, I just think they have a higher floor, higher ceiling combo. On DraftKings, though, I think Darius Garland at that price is extremely valuable for the build over there. So those are my people.
All right, Neil, how about you?
Yep, a lot of the same players. Kobe White looks like he's currently getting to be my highest exposed player. Trae Young, I think I like it maybe even better on DraftKings, just because of the price tag is coming in at lower ownership. And I think Trae Young just has like omega ceiling. You just look at his numbers this year are just insane. So in this fast-paced matchup at low ownership on a 3-game slate kind of stands out to me. So I'm going to be taking kind of an overweight stance for sure on Trae Young, probably double the field.
We'll get to it after, but I'm going to do the same thing in this 20 lineup set. That's one of the fun things about playing small stakes is you get to take some fun stands, and you're not really worried about your bankroll getting destroyed. You get to shoot for first place a lot more comfortable than if you're playing some higher dollar stuff. Shooting guard, Neil, who do you like over there? You playing Garrison Matthews at 50% ownership?
I'm getting to some right now. It is not the best. I'm getting to him because he's 3,200. We're hurting for value. I don't totally love it, but he is like, I'm getting to a ton right now. I'm getting to over 50% Garrison Matthews. I might try and cut back a little bit, but I think the field is about right there. Dyson Daniels, I'm getting to, also looks like a really strong value at 5,700. Just projects well, point per dollar. Again, Kobe White, Norm Powell, Zach Levine looks like a really strong play at 7,100. Yeah, I'd say those are the bigger stands I'm taking. Zaire Williams looks like a pretty reasonable value play to me. Should play over 20 minutes. He's only 3,900. Maybe luck into some extra rebounds or something. Yeah, I think that does it.
Chief, how about you? What are you doing with Garrison Matthews at 50%?
Let me just say this might be probably one of my more controversial stands. Complete X button. So I try to it's a 3-game slate, and where I'm willing to load up on Trey and Harden, I'm willing to completely fade Matthews because would I play him on a 10-game slate? No. So that's me trying to get a little bit of leverage over the field and hoping, I'm taking a stand here, hoping he doesn't go for 28. Right? If he goes for 18, I can still win. If he goes for 20, I can probably still win. If he goes for 28, I'm probably in trouble. The closer he gets to 30, the less likely I am to be up top. But I'm willing to roll the dice on that for a guy like him. And that's just me trying to get leverage on the field. So I'm not telling you to not do it. I'm just telling you that's my major stand today is getting away from Matthews. And but I'll have a sprinkle of Zaire Williams. And I think with Zaire getting minimal ownership compared to him. I mean, you got to think Matthews is getting 50% and Zaire is roughly at 10. Are you telling me Garrison Matthews is going to outscore Zaire Williams even 30% of the time? The answer is probably no. So that's my stand. Love Dyson Daniels here also, where I can get him.
All right, small forward.
Yeah, sorry. I know I hogged up the mic on that. Please forgive me. Okay with Levine. Obviously, Reese Shea is a guy I really like. I'm still okay with Cam Thomas. Didn't mention him. And then we're back to a lot of the same guys, Derek Jones Jr. We didn't mention Amir Coffey. He's playing a lot of minutes. I don't think he's got a lot of upside. But, he's another one of those cheap guys I'm willing to throw in because he's not getting a whole lot of ownership considering it's a 3-game slate.
Neil, talk to me about small forward, and then one Discord question I want to get on quick because we didn't mention this guy at guard. Do you think you can take shots on a 3K Shake Milton in tournaments?
Ooh, that's an interesting one. I am currently not taking any shots, I believe, on Shake Milton. Let me double check that.
Has not had more than 10 DK points since October 16th.
Yeah, it'd be tough. I don't know if Shake Milton would play in a blowout, so I guess that would be the one case. If you think he's going to get the run at the end of the fourth in the case of a blowout, maybe he's playable. I don't think I get there just because I'm not projecting for many minutes for Shake Milton. So even at 3,000, I don't think I get there. But I'd be curious to hear Will's thoughts on Shake Milton.
Oh yeah, I'm not playing Shake.
Yeah, seems a little thin to me.
Yeah. Even on a 3-gamer, that's it.
Yeah.
Small forward, Neil, who do you like?
Small forward on FanDuel. Again, Dyson Daniels. DraftKings. Dyson Daniels, Derek Jones Jr. still looks pretty good at 4,500. Going to get to I'm getting to a little bit of Jalen Wilson, Norm Powell now 7,200 on DraftKings, a little bit more. Forcing my way to just a little bit of Dean Wade, just because he got the blowout run yesterday. I'm a little bit hopeful that maybe he could get a little bit of a bump in usage tonight. I'd say those are the main small forwards I'm getting to.
All right, power forward.
Power forward, it's a lot of the same. Of course, Jalen Johnson goes in, is 8,400 on DraftKings. Looks awesome. Getting some ownership. I'm going to eat a lot of that ownership on Jalen Johnson. Evan Mobley, again, I think benefits from the matchup with Brooklyn as long as they can keep it close to get a lot of rebounds. Patrick Williams, I already went over the analysis on the FanDuel part, but I think he's a little bit more expensive on DraftKings at 4,700, but still getting low ownership. And I still think doesn't benefit quite as much from the chaos, but still looks good. Cam Johnson, again, Dean Wade, getting to a little bit of Chris Boucher, and then just a share or two of DFS.
Will, power forward.
I agree with everything Neil said. Nothing different.
Center position then, Will.
Yep. As I mentioned at the top of the show, I think Jared Allen is probably where I plant my flag at center on DraftKings, where he's $7K. Getting a little bit of a price discount there. And these other guys are priced up like Vooch, Zubac, Bodo, priced up a little bit more. And then, of course, I talked about this, but just getting back to these Atlanta guys, I would be trying to split these guys tonight and, try to get a lot more exposure than the field. I mean, the field really thinks these guys are going to fail. In this game, the best game on the slate, I think that's a mistake. So they could easily go for 20, but one of them could go for 30. And that's really what I'm shooting for here. One gets 30, one goes for 18, 20, and we get it right. And just don't play them together. I think I didn't mention that, but I would not play them together. So if you're building in any type of, lineup builder, set a rule, only one of them go in any lineup that you make.
All right, Neil, how about you? Center position.
Yeah, it is a lot of the same. I like both of the Cavs centers, Mobley and Allen. I like some, let's see, what else am I going to do? Zubats I am getting to a fair amount, getting to some Pirtle. I like the call out again of the Atlanta guys. I think I'm going to force in just a little bit, get a share of each, maybe a share or two. But that's about it. I don't totally love the matchup for Vooch. He really thrives against smaller centers. Capella, I think maybe a little bit bigger than he'd like. I don't know. It's a fine matchup, I guess. But generally going to be going more with the Cleveland centers, Pirtle, Zubats, etc.
All right, I did promise the chat we do a little SimLabs run through here. I got 20 lineups to build that I have not thrown in here yet, so I got to get them in as well. So let's use SimLabs to get it done. One thing we're going to do is we're going to lock in Trae Young and James Harden just because I think that's going to be fun and something I want to do. It's a large field, so I got that one selected. The first thing I want to touch on is the results range because I feel like a lot of the time for large field stuff, especially for tournaments, I'm tempted to go very, very big on this side. But I've noticed if I go too high on the results range, I end up getting a lot of players who they have a median projection of say like 12 minutes and they're going to be 0.01% owned, but they have a 2% optimal rate. And I'll end up with like them in 40% of lineups. And I don't necessarily want to go that crazy. And so I dropped the results range somewhere in the middle here. I don't like to pick a flat number like 50 just in case, other people are doing something almost exactly the same as me. I like to get it a little bit different just in case. In the advanced settings, I like to make sure my lineups are somewhat correlated. I do like the idea of game stacks, especially on these smaller slates. But the most important thing, upside. So I'll get that, make sure that's nice and high. Other than that, doesn't really matter to me that heavily on these ones. The next most important thing to me is my exposure. So I'll build my 20 lineups. If I had more time, I would maybe go through all of them individually. But in the meantime, what I basically just like to do is do a quick scroll, make sure none of these have poor top 100 numbers. As long as they all have top 100 numbers in the green, I'm comfortable enough with them. If they do not, I'll just X out that lineup, get one that does. For example, this one does not, I'll replace it. It's not very likely to finish in the top 100. I'll exit out and I will replace it. Although it doesn't look like it's wanting to get rid of it for me. Weird. Well, usually that's what we'd be able to do, but I guess maybe with this lock button of Harden and oh, there they are. I just got the new ones. So there you go. And I'll go to my exposure tab. I'll make sure that I don't hate what I'm looking at. And geez, a lot of Kevin Porter, a lot of Garrison Matthews, a lot of Jalen Smith. I admit I don't like what I'm looking at, but that is what you get when you lock Trae Young and James Harden both into some lineups. I'm going to find a couple other players I really like today and make sure they are boosted. For example, Ivica Zubac and Jarrett Allen. I want to make sure I'm getting to more of them. But at the same time, I actually think I'm going to go back and do another set of lineups here because if I'm locking into players, I don't actually think I need to get that crazy with my results range because I'm already getting different than the field by hitting a lock button. So I'm going to tone that back. I'm going to get 20 more lineups. And then because there's only 3.5 minutes to lock, I'm going to download these. I'll sync them to Lineup HQ. I'll view in Lineup HQ. And I want to make sure I get these in right away so that I don't accidentally miss them in lock. But I'll now get to some questions here. go into the live stream Discord chat first. And I already answered, we already answered the Shake Milton question. There's another question asking if the host can say their favorite thing about Dean. I don't know, J3. That seems like maybe something we can save for after lock. DKGPP, Neil, last piece, Pirtle or Quickly?
Pirtle.
All right. FanDuel Cash, Will, Garland and Levine, or Harden and Matthews?
And that question for me, it's Garland Levine, man. I don't trust Matthews enough, even though I got the lock button on Harden.
All right. That about does it for. Oh, can you play Dyson Daniels and Risa Shea in the same lineup, Neil?
Yeah, it's a 3-game slate. No issue with it.
All right. What are you most looking for, and in terms of late swap going into this slate? We do have one game much later than the other ones. Is there anything in particular you're waiting on, Neil, and getting ready to swap for your lineups?
Not really. Wait, what is the final game is Toronto and the Clippers.
So like Quickly is the biggest thing.
Yeah, so Quickly would be, if Quickly is in, like, I just answered the question. I prefer Pirtle. I prefer Pirtle in a vacuum, but if you need a late swap option and Quickly is in, I think he makes for like a very a dart throw that not many people are on. So if you're like below the cash line, you don't think you're going to get there because everybody has Pirtle. Maybe at that point you switch out a Pirtle to a Quickly in your flex, something like that. Yeah, I guess that would be the biggest thing to look out for.
Chief, you touched on this earlier, but are you okay with playing Mobley and Allen in the same lineup?
Yeah, I mean, today on a 3-gamer for sure. No problems with it at all.
Okay, I was just responding with that exact message. Like, yes, they are negatively correlated. Also, it's a 3-game slate, and they're both like priced reasonably enough that you can play them together.
Yeah, that was my exact thought process as well. Ooh, looking at my lineups, I ended up getting some Derek Jones in there. I don't love that. Terrence Mann, don't love that. Keaton Wallace. I'm going to be honest. I don't even know who Keaton Wallace is, but he's going to be in some lineups tonight. It's the true benefit of SimLabs is I made no lineups. I made no adjustments in lineup HQ or like earlier in the day. And this just was able to give me some 20 great lineups at the last second here. I personally prefer lineup HQ usually because I'm a guy that likes to X out half of the player pool and adjust my projected ownership to very be fine-tuned for my liking. So far this year, my liking hasn't been as good as the Sims have. So I'm happy to take the shots at the Sims today. We have reached lock. We are out of QQs. Will be back tomorrow on NFL Crunch Time. Neil will be back tomorrow on the GPP Final Takes show. I will be behind the scenes for both of them, popping in and out. So make sure you come back and join us for NFL. And someone says in the Discord chat, thank you for getting to this. Watch out for Shake season. Seems like they're still getting to a little Shake Milton tonight. Make sure you smash the like button on your way out. Hit the notification bell. Make sure you don't miss out on all of our great content. Another alert, make sure if you haven't left us yet, important news. The last 2 weeks, there has been no Sunday night football show. Tested it out. See if it warranted coming back. See if the people wanted the Sunday night football showdown show. Guess what? The people wanted it back. So Chief and I will be back tomorrow night before lock doing our showdown show for Sunday night football. So make sure you stay tuned for that one as well. Am I vamping while I download the new set of credits that Steve sent me? Yeah, I am a little bit. Will, what are your final thoughts on the slate while the clip of the credits downloads?
Well, I think if the Chicago-Atlanta game goes off, then we're going to be splitting first place. But if it doesn't, I think we get a solo shipper tonight. That's what I would say. I think we get a solo even on a 3-game. If this game doesn't go the way the field thinks it goes, I personally think it's going the way we think it's going to go.
Yeah, I think that makes sense as well. Neil, who ended up being your top 3 highest exposed players in GPPs?
Oh, I don't even know. Let me look. Dyson Daniels, man, Garrison Matthews is in there even after I cut him down significantly in terms of projection. And Jalen Johnson. So all Hawks. So
I hope that Will is right and that it just goes the way that we're all expecting it to go, and it's not like a complete blow. Because yeah, my 3 highest exposed right now are all on the Hawks.
Yeah, I didn't realize it, but the new set of 20 lineups I have built, it ended up with 20 all 20 have Garrison Matthews, so it ended up with a Garrison walk.
I cut him back like over a fantasy point because I was like Will's right, like this is kind of like questionable chalk, like I don't really, he could definitely fail, but I still got to over 50% somehow.
Looking at the last month, I guess like at least he's been at least like 14 15 DK points in every game, and
that'd be fine.
That helps when he's only 3.2k. Yeah. That'll do it. We got the credits downloaded. We'll see you back here tomorrow for NFL. On behalf of myself, Will, Neil, thank you so much for joining us. You have been crunched.